In 2013, Kanye West released Yeezus, with some people saying it was the greatest album of our generation and other people saying it sucked. How did Kanye release his most divisive album ever? When finding inspiration for the album, Kanye mostly checked out minimalist design and architecture and visited a furniture exhibition in the Louvre 5 different times. A lamp he said was his greatest inspiration for the sound of the album, and West applied the minimalism to his own life, feeling that visionaries can be misunderstood by their unenlightened peers. West also wanted a deep hometown influence on the album and listened to 1980s house music, most associated with his hometown of Chicago, for influence on the album's sound. He began recording the album in early 2013 with collaborators DJ Khaled and No ID in the living room of his personal loft at a Paris hotel, and Kanye had to keep the compositions really simple in order to hear the tracks more clearly, as giving a song too much bass or complexity would just simply overpower the room's poor acoustics. In the studio, the atmosphere was described as very focused, and Kanye brought in several close collaborators like Mike Dean and Kid Cudi. Hudson Mohawk, the producer of infamous TikTok song Seabat, noted the inclusive group atmosphere of the sessions, in which multiple contributors would work on similar pieces with different elements ultimately selected from each. All were involved were given a song to work on and returned the next day to sit and critique, a process that was compared to an art class. Producers often sent West their strangest stuff, and he would edit and mix it all together to create the sound he wanted, using different perspectives of each of the producers, like he was the director of a play. As Kanye was determined to undermine the commercial appeal of the album, had several different tracks were left off the finished project that were deemed too melodic or more in line with Kanye's previous material. Kanye also set rules regarding sound and style, insisting that there couldn't be any bass wobbles, which reminded him of dubstep. Thomas Bangalter, one half of Daft Punk, said the album's recording process was very raw, adding that Kanye was just rapping, kind of screaming primarily actually. While Kanye's previous albums, especially My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, with a song like Power taking 5,000 hours alone to finish, took considerable time in the studio, Yeezus was described as the fastest record he had ever made. In May 2013, Def Jam executives listened to the final product, which was later changed, describing the album as dark. Travis Scott, who produced 2 songs on the album, claimed that the snippets he had heard of Yeezus were from the year 3000 and recalled crazy memories from being around Kanye during the recording of the album. Chief Keef was flown into Paris to record contributions for the song Hold My Liquor, and he only stayed for 24 hours because he didn't like the food in Paris and he thought it was very subpar compared to American food. And yet, while he was only there for 24 hours, I think his contributions to the album really helped, as I feel like Hold My Liquor is one of the best songs on the entire album, and it really shapes the sound of the album as a whole. Kanye's creative process while recording the album often bordered on perfectionism. In March 2013, Kanye described the album to an interviewer as near completion, only to revise this statement 1 month later to the album being only 30% complete. Kanye also made several last-minute alterations to Yeezus, enlisting infamous producer Rick Rubin as an executive producer for additional recording for the album mere days before its actual release, changes including re-recording whole songs and rewriting entire verses. The rough cut Kanye played Rubin ran nearly 3.5 hours long, and Kanye's orders to Rubin were to take the music in a stripped-down minimal direction, often removing elements he had already recorded. In a September 2013 interview, Kanye said of Rubin, "He's not a producer, he's a reducer," and I think Rubin's reductions to the album really allow it to go in a much more raw direction, showing Kanye's vulnerability with the music. For several days in late May and early July 2013, Kanye and a rotating group of collaborators holed up at Rubin's Shangri-La studio in Malibu trying to complete the record. Rubin thought it would be impossible to meet the label's deadline, and all involved in the record at this time ended up working long hours with no days off in order to finish it. West had intended the album to be 16 tracks until Rubin suggested cutting the album down to fewer tracks from 16 songs to 10, saying that the others could be reserved for a follow-up record. Rubin gave the song Bound as an example, which was a more middle-of-the-road R&B song done in an adult contemporary style, before West decided to replace the musical backing with a minimalistic sample, a single-note bass line in the hook, which we processed to have a punk edge. 2 days before the album had to be delivered to the label, West wrote and sang the lyrics to 2 songs, while also recording the vocals to 3 others in just 2 hours. Yeezus was released on June 18th, 2013, and the physical CD edition of Yeezus was released in a clear jewel box with no album artwork, reflecting the minimalist tone. Yeezus debuted at number 1 on the US Billboard 200, becoming West's 6th chart-topping studio album and selling 327,000 copies in the United States its first week. The album did fail to reach the label's 500,000 in the first week sales projections and marked Kanye's lowest solo opening week sales in the US. Public reaction to Yeezus, including its unorthodox and deliberate lack of promotion, as well as its brash and aggressive sound, was mixed. Yeezus was known as one of the most anticipated releases of 2013 by major publications, but the lack of a major radio single was regarded as a risky move. But Kanye at his Governor's Ball performance said, "When I listen to radio, that ain't where I wanna be no more," and he unveiled several tracks from the record for the first time. Rolling Stone summarized the audience response. Half the crowd cheered, almost half of them audibly rolled their eyes. West's June 11th interview with the New York Times was similarly viewed with a mixed reaction, with many outlets mocking West's seemingly vain statements. In the article, Kanye West compares himself to Apple co-founder Steve Jobs and refers to himself as the nucleus of all society. Within 4 days prior to the release, Yeezus was leaked online, and it stirred up a Twitter frenzy and received widespread media coverage. The Washington Post commented on the significance of the leak. Kanye West's new album didn't leak online over the weekend. It gushed out into the pop ecosystem like a million barrels of renegade crude, ominous, mesmerizing, and of great consequence. Critics were very kind to Yeezus regarding critical reviews, but others viewed the release as musical and commercial suicide, and fans live blogged their own befuddlement on Twitter and Facebook. The New Yorker's Sasha Ferry Jones suggests that Yeezus may be preferred over any of Kanye's previous works in the coming decades by a new generation due to the lean vibrancy of the album. Kanye West's Bound 2 music video, which you can see playing throughout this video, was also met with a lot of backlash, with critics saying it was a confident display of love and passion with little to no narrative, and it was a pretty bad idea seen through so completely that it stops being a bad idea. Fans also disliked the video, as by the time it had reached 7 million views on YouTube, the music video's 13,000 likes were outbalanced by the 50,000 dislikes. Jay-Z described Yeezus as polarizing, though claimed that's what great art is, and that West pushes the genre forward with his experimentation. In 2013, Yeezus was both voted as the most overrated album of the year and the most underrated album of the year by Pitchfork readers, showing its divisiveness. As the years have gone on, Yeezus has become critically acclaimed by the fans as well, with the divisiveness turning into a unanimous "this album is good." It is well regarded as one of Kanye's best albums and has become one of the best albums of the 2010s as well, rating 21st on the Rate Your Music charts. People have also come around to the abrasive sound, and the influence of the album has spread to a lot more artists besides the just more industrial acts that Kanye took influence from on Yeezus itself. Yeezus definitely is a great Kanye album and shows the diversity of music that Kanye has created throughout his career, and just shows how much influence he has just from one of his albums. Yeezus is a great Kanye album, and I love how all the fans have come around to agree that Yeezus is one of Kanye's best albums. If you guys did like this video, watch the video on the left next, and you can watch my full playlist of all videos like this on the right, or just subscribe in the middle.